Hey, so in this video I'm going to be talking about different types of cables and a few common pieces of audio gear that we use. But before all that, I just wanted to explain why this is important. So communication between the production team and worship team, and also between members of both teams, is highly important. And so it's important for us to know different types of cables and different types of gear so we can explain it. So if I said something like, hey, I need 2 XLR cables and an RCA cable, that the people helping me would know what that was. So this might be a little bit of boring information, but this is all basically just to get us on have the same language so that we can communicate together, and without having to explain the specific type of gear or specific type of cable, but very quickly and easily we can just solve whatever we're trying, or whatever we are trying to do, and it's the most efficient way. So yeah, let's get into it. Hey John, so really quickly I just wanted to take a few moments and explain to you kind of the common cables that we use here at The Well, and just that the audio world uses in general. If you already know some of these, that's totally okay, but was just going to provide this for anyone who's wanting to join on a team. We can use this as a resource to kind of show them the typical cables that we use. So I'm just going to start with the first one here. So this one is a 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch cable. So you'll notice the 1/8 inch cable, that's called like an 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter jack. It's the same thing, but basically this is the one that plugs into like a headphone or a headphone jack. And then the other side is a 1/4 inch. And basically a practical application of this is, let's say you're going to run some kind of audio from a computer or a phone. You'll plug one end into your phone, and then the other end you'll plug into a direct box, which will go in, run into your direct box, and then out of that will be an XLR to your Snake. And we're going to talk about direct boxes in another video, but that is an application for that. So again, that's a 3.5 millimeter or 1/8 inch cable. So the second one we're going to jump to is this one's called an RCA cable. So this is just another type of audio cable, and basically the red and the white mean right and left. So basically you'll kind of notice sometimes on the back of a mixer or back of a television or something like that, a red and a white basically port, and that is what this is. So this is called an RCA cable. Just used to run audio. We run the audio with our mixer out of our computer with this. So we have an RCA to 3.5 millimeter jack, and as you can see, you can get all of these cables like with different connections at the end of it. So you could have a 1/4 inch to RCA cable, or a 1/8 inch to RCA cable. So currently on our board we run an RCA cable, which is red and white, to an 1/8 inch that we plug into our Mac to use audio. So that one's that one. Our next one is just your standard instrument cable. So this is for guitars, this is for keyboard, basically anything that needs this type of a 1/4 inch connection. That is what that is for. The next one is just your standard XLR cable. So we use this to connect basically microphones, and this is the connection that we run into our Snake. So basically everything has to get back to XLR, whether it's male or female. The male side is the one with the prongs, and the female is the one with the holes, and everything has to get back to XLR to connect to our Snake. A few other common ones is this next one is called like a banana plug. So this is called a banana plug. And basically this connects power to our speakers through our power conditioners, power amps that are on the back of our rack is how we connect with that. That's where you'll see those. The next one is called a speak-on cable. This is kind of the standard when it comes to hooking up loudspeakers to power amps. This is what everybody uses. It basically has like a locking mechanism when you put it in and turn, and this is like kind of the industry standard now. We've transferred from the banana plugs to these speak-on cables, and they are a lot better. And this last cable is like a MIDI MIDI cable. So basically what this does is it plugs into the keyboard, which allows you to use the keyboard as a controller and then run all of the sounds off of your computer. So that's what a lot of professional people will do, is they'll have basically their keyboard, but all of the sounds, they're not getting the sounds from the actual keyboard, but from their computer, usually running Ableton Live, which is a software, and then also MainStage 3, and there's a whole bunch of other ones. So this is how you would connect your keyboard to use it as a controller with your computer. So you'd plug the USB side into your computer, and then the other side into your keyboard. Yeah, so that's just a quick overview of all the different types of audio cables that we use at The Well, but also that just the audio world uses in general. So thanks. Hey John, so this is continuing our series on cables and different types of cables, and I just wanted to show you 3 cables that we use at The Well for video and audio and also lighting. So the first one here is just an HDMI cable. So this is your standard video connection. HDMI can run audio and video from the same cable. In the past, you would have to have one cable for audio and one cable for video, but HDMI basically sends audio and video, so that's cool. So that we use these to connect to our projectors and then connect to our Mac, which our Mac doesn't have HDMI output, so we have to use a converter, which is like a Thunderbolt to HDMI, basically a little converter box. So that's how we use those. When it comes to lighting, basically there's 2 different types of lighting cables. There's a DMX 3-pin cable and a DMX 5-pin cable. So let's talk about the DMX 3-pin cable first. So basically DMX, I'm not exactly sure what it stands for, but basically it just transfers data. And the 3-pin cable, if you're looking at it, looks very familiar to the XLR cable. Oftentimes these get mistaken for one another, and some people say that you can use them interchangeably, but you cannot. So one is meant to send an audio signal, the XLR, and then the other one, the DMX cable, is meant to send data. So basically you'll use DMX cable to connect to your lighting console, to connect to all your individual lights, and basically how this cable is basically how the lights, our stage lights, our house lights, communicate with our lighting console. So 3-pin, there's also the second one is a DMX 5-pin cable. Basically both cables are the same. The DMX 5 cable was initially created, and then some scientists and people said, well, we can do the 5-pin better, or we can do the 5-pin but only use 3 pins. So it was cheaper. You didn't have to use 5 pins, you could only use 3. So basically different lights will have different connection points. So I think the standard, most lights today will have a 3-pin connector in the back to connect a DMX cable into, but also some lights have a 5-pin. So you can buy 5-pin to 3-pin converters and all of that stuff. At The Well, we just use 3-pin DMX cables, but I just wanted to make you aware of the 5-pin if you ever came across that. So yeah, this is just a quick overview of all of the video cables that we use at The Well, and just also that the production world uses outside of that. So thanks. With a instrument cable or a 1/4-inch cable, you'll run into the direct box, and then on the back side you will take an XLR out of that direct box and go into the snake. So that's an example. We use this with acoustic guitars, we use this with keyboard. We run 1/4-inch out of our keyboard into direct boxes to get back to XLR. They do make cables out there that are 1/4-inch to XLR, but they're not very good, and that's not what the professionals do. So we have different types of direct boxes. They kind of all look different, but for the most part, they all have very similar things. So they have a 1/4-inch in, and then they have an XLR out. So another practical application is if you're running like click or tracks. So like I mentioned before, is if you had a 1/8-inch cable or an 1/8-inch cable or a 3.5 millimeter cable, and I talk about that in the audio cables. But so you would have your phone, and then you would plug the headphone jack or 3.5 millimeter or 1/8-inch. There's lots of names for that. You would plug that into your phone, and out of your phone, you would go to a 1/4-inch. So this time you would have an 1/8-inch cable on one side, and on the other side it would be a 1/4-inch cable, and then you would plug that into a direct box. And then same thing like the acoustic guitar and keys, out of that direct box would be an XLR signal. So I'm not exactly sure why we do it this way, but that's just how everything is hooked up. Oh, one of the ways is that when it comes to quarter-inch signal, so quarter-inch, basically the longer you run your quarter-inch length, the less signal is going to pass by. So let's say you had a guitar cable and it was 10-foot cable, so you plug one side in your guitar, one side in your amp, and you played. It sounded pretty good. It sounds fine. But let's say you took the same cable, but it was a 300-foot version, so you had your plug into your amp and plug into your guitar, but there was 300 feet of cable between there. The signal would be really dampened and very quiet by the time it got from your guitar to the amp. So that's something you have to be aware about with quarter-inch cables, is the longer the length, you have to compensate for that. Now, with XLR cables, you don't have to worry about signal loss at all. It's up to 500 feet. So you can run a 300-foot, 200-foot, 400-foot XLR cable, and you won't lose any signal. So that's why we use direct boxes we convert our quarter-inch signal to XLR, and XLR allows us to run a very long cable to our snake or to our board or wherever we're running it. So yeah, that is just a quick overview of kind of some of those. Oh, I forgot the few other things I was going to mention. So 3 other things I wanted to mention to you: 2 types of mics and then a splitter that we use. So this first type of mic is called an SM58. Basically what this is it's a vocal mic. So just your standard, this is like the industry standard when it comes to vocal mic. They're about $100. You can pick one up used for $50 or $60, but this is basically the standard when it comes to vocal mics. These are very tough, very rigid, are just awesome. We have a few of these that we use interchangeably with some other competitors, ones that are around the same price. But yeah, this look is called an SM58. Also another mic, and the SM58 is made by Shure, which is just a production company that make gear. The second one is a Shure SM57 mic. So the only difference is that last number is a 7 opposed to an 8. So we have the 58 and then the 57. So these are referred to sometimes as SM57s, 57s, something like that. And basically what this is a all-purpose other microphone other than vocals. So you would use this microphone. We use this to mic our electric guitars. We use this to mic our bass amp. We use this to mic overheads in the drums. We use this to mic all of the drums: rack tom, floor tom, snare top, snare bottom, overheads, just everything. This is another basically industry standard when it comes to recording or using a microphone other than vocals, is this SM57. So we have a few of these landing around. But yeah, you can use an SM57 to basically mic about anything. If you were doing violin or cello, we would use this. So yeah, the last thing I wanted to just tell you about is an XLR splitter. So basically what this does is it splits the XLR signal. So if there's any time where you don't have you basically need to split the signal for any reason, you can use one of these. So a practical example of how we use this is we use this to split our monitor mixes so that all of our musicians and singers have enough channels for everybody to have their own ear mix. So currently, like I showed you in the rack overview video, there are five returns on our snake. So basically, we can only send 5 in-ear mixes to the people on the stage. And typically we have more than 5 people on the stage, so we need to fix that. So basically what we do, out of one of the monitor channels, we use this XLR splitter. We actually use a couple of these so that everybody can have an in-ear mix. And currently how it's set up is that I have all of the frontline singers, usually 4, are all on the same in-ear mix. So if they adjust something on their individual mix, it will send those same changes to all the other ones. So we found that this works the best, and all of the other musicians, for the most part, are on their own mix, so they can boost their instrument that they're playing and then also boost other instruments around them that they need. So yeah, that was just 4 very quick things that we use at The Well kind of when it comes to gear. So direct boxes, SM58, which is the vocal mic, SM57, which is the everything but vocals mic that you can use for everything, and then the XLR splitter. So thanks.